Well, hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Mitra Ray, and I'm here with my co-founder for rREST, Dr. Cynthia Sholes, who also happened to innovate the rREST technique. And so we're going to start off with Cindy sharing some of her insights with you, and I'll probably be interjecting here and there. So take it away, Cindy.
I want to welcome all of you all to the call. How many of you guys recognize that we're getting inundated all the time, every day, with negative information, with uncertainty, and just all kinds of challenges? Yeah, that's exactly right. And on top of that, our work stresses, we have people issues, we are juggling family and work, trying to manage balance. And now we have our kids that we're homeschooling, even as we're also trying to do our jobs from home. So things are complicated right now. And all of that causes stress in our bodies, and it causes accumulation of thoughts. And when those thoughts go unchecked, they just start to add up and they start to create overwhelm. Every thought that we think, whether it's one that we've generated ourselves, or whether it's implanted from somebody else, whether it's our family members, the media, or work, or just because of the everyday stressors, every single thought you think has a physiological response in your body. So the cells in your body react to everything that you think. So what happens is that you get triggered by your lizard brain. Your logical mind gets hijacked, because when you're under stress, the thoughts causes physiological reaction, kicks you out of being able to think clearly. So this is what's going on in your brain. So for some of you neuroscience nerds there, just going to share a little bit that your emotional brain is your amygdala. It's the part of your nervous system that generates your emotions. Your emotional patterns are stored there, and it works together with your lizard brain, or your brainstem for those neuroscience needs, to keep you safe. And so when you get stressed, feel like there's a threat in the world, then what happens is it causes your lizard brain to react, and it calls your whole body into action. That's when the physiological responses start. The problem with that is that your logical mind isn't engaged. So what I want to share with you today is there's 3 keys to clearing out mental clutter. And those 3 keys are basically, first, becoming aware. Not beware, but becoming aware of some of the mental clutter as it enters your mind, and becoming aware of your emotional and your stress response reactions that come into your mind and into your body that cause you to react instead of respond to your environment. So we're going to tell you a little bit more about that, because how you do that, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually do it. And so becoming aware, the simplest part of that is for you to start having a meditative practice. Exercises the muscle of that awareness capacity that you have, so you can start becoming aware of the thoughts in your head. Because we talk to ourselves. You have thoughts in your head that are yours from all different parts of you. And when you become more aware of that, you become more aware of how they're affecting you and whether or not you're reacting to your environment or responding to your environment. So meditation is fantastic for that. I'm mostly going to talk to you today about how you can clear memories, because trauma comes back as a reaction, not a memory. We want you to recognize that the stress patterns that we have, those are reaction patterns. That's the first important thing to understand. They're reaction patterns, and patterns means that it's learned. It was learned because there was a past event that occurred that was remembered, not by your conscious mind necessarily, but by your body. it was remembered by your body. And then once that memory is triggered, then what happens is your logical mind is hijacked and you no longer have access to it and you just start reacting. So it's hard for a lot of people to imagine, but the stress that you're experiencing right now is actually old memories replaying automatically and hijacking your ability to be in the driver's seat of your mind.
So I would love to hear from Tiana at this point, her experience with REST. I think that might add a little value at this point. Tiana, would you like to share with us?
Sure. Hi, I'm Tiana. I have only done 4 sessions, and already I've noticed a huge difference in myself because I've done years worth of therapy, and pretty much all therapy did for me was make me understand what I think and why I think it, but it didn't necessarily help me get rid of that thought process. I still was stuck in that thought process. And so just in the 4 sessions that I've had with Cindy, I'm noticing things that after a couple days after my session, there are things that used to bother me so much every single day. And all of a sudden, it's like domino effect. All these memories, all these things that have happened in my life no longer bother me. It's like they just have been dissolving. And I don't get the anxiety and the stress that I used to get from even just remembering, oh, that embarrassing moment I had or whatever. So for me, it's been a big game changer. And I can actually not just know what I'm feeling, but move past it and not let that hold me back in the things that are important to me.
Can you give us a specific example?
Yeah, I was struggling with self-confidence issues, and I just felt very worthless and felt like I had to be perfect constantly. And that was one of the first things that I addressed with Cindy. And it was a night and day difference where I went from feeling like I could never have self-love to all of a sudden self-love was just the easiest thing. And that makes a huge difference in everything, just being able to love myself. All of a sudden, life is a lot easier just because I can love myself.
Yeah, and I think that it's hard for people to understand that. I've talked to people that say, "Well, I don't really feel stressed. I'm just really busy, and I'm just trying to manage my time." Or how many of you have that sense of like, I have to do it perfect, I have to do it right, or that, oh, I'm scared to do that. Last time I tried something like that, I was so embarrassed. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready. There's that sort of insecurity a lot of people experience, just trying to live their lives, just trying to be functional. And these are things, as Tiana just shared, can really, it's hard to believe that the insecurities and the stressors the stress that you're feeling today, whether you recognize it as stress or not, are just old memories replaying. So, just keep listening to what Dr. Sholes has to say on this topic.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Tiana. And Tiana's experience is really common. Almost all of my clients are highly successful people, but they come in because they're doing something, either avoiding something going on in life or reacting, like being angry, yelling at their kids or their coworkers, or just using a tone of voice that's not effective, or they're avoiding something that's preventing them from really reaching whatever the next level is. And sometimes it shows up as a lack of confidence. Sometimes it shows up like trying to please everybody. And sometimes it shows up as, feeling like they don't have any support. But whatever it is showing up, it turns out it's just past memories. What there is for us to understand is that the things that happen in childhood, they don't always stay in childhood. that in fact we start learning how to respond to our environment from before we're even born. In utero, we start learning how to respond to our environment. And so we have adverse experiences. That means we're having experiences that are challenging to us. We learn how to respond. Well, when we're little tiny, the only mechanism we have to respond is our stress response systems, is our emotional mind and our lizard mind. And those are the things that we use to react. We learn how to respond to the world. Those memories then get stored, and then they get triggered as an adult. And then we can have something happen in our world that might not, it's definitely not the same thing that might have been going on when we were kids, but it seems to trigger it. So, for example, when parents are fighting during pregnancy, the baby in utero is experiencing the mother's emotions, and those emotions then get learned by the baby. How do I respond? So when we take away a pacifier from a toddler, that toddler learns, how do I respond with a loss? So then later, when you're an adult and you have a loss, if you're responding like a 2-year-old, then it's not always effective. So it works for us to clear these out so we have access to our whole selves. Slide, I really want to explain like what's going on in your mind that this is the problem. So we mentioned before, your emotional brain is observing what's going on in your world. If something's happening in your world now that's similar to anything that happened in the past, like for example, if you've lost something, well, that'll remind you of the lost pacifier. If somebody is putting you down, I work a lot with women, and as women, when we're toddlers, boys say, oh, you run like a girl, or they take things away from us and they tell us it's because we're girls, we're not capable. Those memories get stored in our emotional brain. And if they're not processed, something similar happens in our environment. Our boss takes something away from us and it triggers us, and our emotional brain plugs into our lizard brain, and our lizard brain has us react. Whatever that reaction was when we were 3 and the boy took it away and said, we're not big enough, or we're girls, or whatever it was, same reaction happens. So
can I say something here?
Yeah.
So the way I think about it is that, let's keep using the pacifier example. Of course, you're not going to remember that your pacifier was taken away. But right. What happens is that memory that's there, that emotional response you had when your pacifier was taken away, we're just using that as an example, is stored in the wrong part of the brain, and it doesn't have a timestamp. That's the other problem. It's just kind of like floating in space, and therefore you're always vulnerable to it. So if there's another emotional response that feels similar to that loss, that original loss, your emotional brain is going to, because it doesn't have a timestamp, it's going to come over and take over that lizard brain, and you're going to feel like you're feeling that loss, but you can't identify it's because of that loss of that pacifier. Therefore, you don't have control over it. So it's living deep in your subconscious mind without a timestamp. And so what we can do with rest is we can extract that original memory. We can go back in time using biofeedback, and we can really figure out what happened originally. And then as soon as we work on that, your logical brain, your adult brain today comes into play and says, oh, of course my pacifier was taken away. I mean, I couldn't live the rest of my life with a pacifier in my mouth. Of course my parents took it away. So you immediately process it. And then what happens is that you sleep that night, and then your logical brain connects it to another part of the brain. We'll just call it the connecting brain. So for the geeks out there, your logical brain is your prefrontal cortex, and the connecting brain is your hippocampus. And you're basically going to take that memory that's living without a timestamp and refile it in a logical place in your brain, in the hippocampus, so there's a reference point and it doesn't trigger you. It's no longer connected to your lizard brain, it's connected to your logical brain. So now there is your emotional brain and your logical brain. When you face a similar situation, you now have access to both your emotions and your logic so you can move forward in time. So Cindy, I know I'll let you explain this slide.
You actually get to choose the thoughts that come into your mind. And when your logical mind and your emotional mind are connected, then it's like connecting your heart and your brain and your soul. When you've got all of that connected, you actually get to choose what goes into your mind, what you let in your mind and what you let sit in your mind, as long as you're clearing out the old memories. And when you choose, you can ask yourself, just like if you were choosing clothes in your closet, does this spark joy? If it does, keep it. So I love Marie Kondo's idea about how you choose to keep this clutter in your house. You can deal with the clutter of your mind in the same way. You get to control what's in there. So rest helps you clear out this clutter from the memories that are stored in the subconscious part of your mind that you don't have that conscious access to, that when you do rest, you get to actually release those, give them to goodwill. I don't care. You release it, which means you get to choose what you want to have stay in your mind. And go ahead, and Mitra, you wanted to talk a little bit about emotions.
Yes.
I'd like to share this.
Yes, so this is something that we got from Abraham Hicks, and this is an old emotional guidance scale that they created. And there are all these emotional states you can be in. Of course, joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation are at the tippy top, and at the very bottom is fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness. But there's a whole range of other emotions as well. Now, there's a dotted line halfway through. Above the dotted line are, in general, positive emotion. And when Dr. Sholes talks about the combination of your heart and brain and your soul working together, you're going to experience these positive emotional states. But anything below the line, then you're starting to get into a place where you're playing old memories. Now, this is a really interesting concept that I just had a breakthrough around recently, is that anytime we're experiencing any level of positive emotion, we are actually connected to our higher self. We are in connection with our soul and our heart and our mind, our brain and our heart. And there's actually a lot of research about the entrainment of the brain waves with the heartbeat. And it's called heart math, and you can look that up. So when your heart and brain are entrained to one another, they're working together physiologically, and you're connected to your higher purpose, soul, whatever you want, the divinity in you, whatever language you want to use for your spiritual being that lives inside you. When you're connected, you're going to feel some level of positive emotion. However, anything that's below that line, this is really important to understand. The only reason you're feeling it is because you're replaying old memories of old emotional patterns, and you're not realizing, and you're thinking the situation is at hand is creating boredom, pessimism, frustration, overwhelm, all of those things. It's not. You're simply triggering that emotional brain that is having a direct connection to your brainstem, and your physiological response, that lizard brain is kicking in because you're replaying old memories without any control.
And I wonder if Destia is here, because you have a story or two that you wanted to share, and I would love to hear, because I know you understand this and have had some experiences with it as well. Hey, Destia.
Hi. I have been working with you, Cindy, for how long? Like forever. So I've gotten to see the breadth of this work really like come to fruition. And the beauty and the simplicity of it, which I want to sing to, is like so profound. But the things, I mean, I've worked with so much, like what can't you work with? You know, the places that the biggest thing I've seen is where my brain would get hijacked. You know, where your brain gets hijacked. And for me, it would be like, I'm going to admit it, I'd be throwing a tantrum. And And, my husband's word for me was feisty and spicy. And it was because I would throw tantrums. And now, recently he was like, "You're the most balanced person I know." And I was like, who is saying that? So I just noticed that those triggers, like I can choose, I can still be spicy as a human, but my brain doesn't get hijacked and I don't go into a tantrum phase if something isn't what I would choose. So I have more powerful choice in life. And that is a really, really powerful place to be. And that's just one example.
It's so awesome. And I really love being a part of you growing into, you've always been an extraordinary human. And when you shed that old stuff and you're not getting triggered, as you said, you get to choose when you're spicy, you get to be more of who you are. And it's just super exciting to get sort of more of the magic of Dr. Destia Skinner. So you like this stuff so much that you decided to become certified as well.
Yes, exactly.
So you're also now using this with your patients and your clients using the rest, right?
Yeah. And using it, I've seen profound shifts in sleep problems, in anxiety, people just coming into their own power. I loved one of the examples of one of my rest patients and how she described it. She's like, I just felt like I got tall. I could hold myself taller and taller. Just you come into your own, you come into your own power, you come into the ability of choice. And then life comes at you. Life's around you. We're all, look what we're in now. Good Lord, God save us. But you can go differently through it because you have more choice. You have more what I would call bandwidth in your nervous system, and then more capabilities to say, okay, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is how I want to react. And you have more capabilities because you have more bandwidth in your nervous system because you've taken out all the space fillers of old memories and old ways of reacting. And then you've got choice of new. So that's
exactly right.
Really powerful tool for any practitioner working with, if you're working with teams, it's a powerful tool if you're working as a doctor or any kind of practitioner with someone's health, because we're all going to get to blocks. We're all going to get to places where we don't know how to move out of it because we're so stuck in our own way of thinking. And this just shifts our mindset around it. And I just had a whole day of wearing a mask. I have no idea what my face looks like because I did not pay attention to that. But I'm feeling it right now. Oh, my first mask day. I need to do a rest session on it.
That's a good
Looks
idea.
fantastic.
We often get pushed into uncomfortable places we don't want to be. And
yes.
rather than just stay with the discomfort of it or have to deal with the discomfort of it or run around the discomfort of it, it's that discomfort. It just causes mental clutter. So people asked me last time, what do you mean by mental clutter? I mean exactly that. You have to wear a mask. Why have mental clutter about it? Just do some rest, clear out the mental clutter around it, so you can wear the mask and not feel like it's distracting you from the magic that you're bringing to your patients.
I'd like to share my story, actually.
Yes, please.
Cindy and I have been friends for a long time. So when she was first playing around with this technology, I was one of her first guinea pigs, I would say. So I feel like I have benefited the most from rest because I've been working with her on this kind of technology since 2005. Is that right? Now it's just like that. It's like you had a bad day, you can just do a rest session, and it's literally that freeing, because when we are trying to grow as human beings and expand our horizons, as soon as you come up against your comfort zone, you're going to face challenges. And most of us have some fundamental challenges. We definitely recommend a 5 to 10 session package for some of the most fundamental things that kind of get in the way. But there's never a time where a rest session grows old for me, because whenever I run into issues or Cindy runs into issues, or, we've now started to create more of a community where we can work with one another. And it is such a fantastic tool. I will tell you that many of you know that I've been very successful in the Juice Plus business. But if I were to be honest with you, if I didn't have this technology, I would have quit a long time ago. I seriously would have quit a long time ago, because you don't get to the level of success that I've had without facing some major challenges. And those challenges seem external. They seem like they live outside, but they actually live inside. And when I started to recognize that the only thing I can ever have effect on is me. Sure, there are times when, my husband does something or my kids do something and I just say, you guys need a rest session. However, the only time that I can actually make a difference in my own life is to work on myself, to put, recognize that I'm the one that needs a rest session, even if it's to deal with how I'm reacting. I can't change another person's behavior. I can't change what's going on in the world around us, but I can change my reaction to it. And I will tell you that this has been just such a comfort tool I've had. Like, oh, I can always do a rest session. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Cindy, for bringing this into my life. I know there's a lot of other people that have experience. If anybody else wants to do a quick share, unmute yourself and share away.
I'll say something.
Great.
Hi, I'm Lisa St. John. I own a couple of medical clinics. I've known Dr. Sholes for, I guess a decade, and worked with her at times. The other day I was reminiscing about how I just don't have a lot of difficulty around money, and how I own a couple medical clinics, which is great. And I was thinking, I have so many friends who get so stressed about money. And then I thought, well, Cindy doesn't have that stress either. And I remembered back to when we spent a whole half a day just on doing rest with money, throwing away money, losing money, getting gypped by money, wasting money, making lots of money, conserving your money, spending your money, using credit cards, using cash. It was really interesting because it really covered a lot of topics. But I have to say, of all my brothers and sisters and people I know, I think I have the least, not just stress around money, but I think I'm probably the most successful person around money. And I know that Cindy has that same ease with money. And given that we're in really hard times right now around money, I think if anybody has any issues around money where they worry about it or they're concerned about it or they want more of it, because it's also about being able to I would just say absolutely just do a few rest sessions, do 5 rest sessions around money. And you'll be so impressed where you'll be a year from now and 5 years from now. Because I think it was 10 years ago that Cindy and I did that workshop for half a day. I just have to say, we all have so much stress around money. And my life is really successful financially, I have to say. So I can't say enough for my rest sessions that I had way back then, because what I learned from them and how they cleared out for me and made spaciousness my life in this area is still around today, and that's years and years later. So it's not just this will be handled for a week or 6 months or a year. For me, it's been handled for more than a decade. So
thanks for pointing that out, Lisa. That's also a very important point to understand. It's like the changes that you incorporate through rest really, really allow you to have permanent change in those aspects of life. And that's really fantastic. Somebody's asking, what do you do during a rest session? That's a little bit difficult to explain during this time, but we basically use a biofeedback technique to figure out, well, first we listen to what's going on for you, and then we find the stressful statements that we are trained to hear, that, what is the stress statement that your body's going to kind of react to. And then we find the original event through biofeedback that triggered that. And then we have you process those emotions. The first time you do it, it's about a 50-minute session. After you get the hang of it, it might be as fast as 30 minutes or even less sometimes. Those of us that do it a lot, we can usually clear it in about 20 minutes. So it's a technique that you get very good at as well as a person receiving it.
So all of this to be said is that when you start becoming present to what's going on in your life, your mental clutter, your stress responses, the things that are triggering you, the things that aren't working, the automatic negative thoughts that show up in your mind, when you become present to them, that's not enough. That's what meditation does, but it's not enough. The next thing that you have to do is actually clear them up so they don't keep showing up in your mind again and showing up in your mind again and showing up in your mind again. And that's what rest does. Rest helps you break through those old patterns by helping you pull them out by the roots, which really does eliminate them permanently so they don't keep showing up again. And once you've had a breakthrough, it allows you to be the diamond that you know yourself to be, that you are inside. Diamond is just a piece of charcoal that's handled stress exceptionally well.
So yes, we absolutely invite you to go to rest.com. You can hear some more video. There's more video testimonials, written testimonials, and all kinds of information, more information about what rest is. And I am somebody that I definitely want everybody in my business associated on my team to have access, not to mention the whole rest of the world. If everybody knew the power of rest, I think we'd be living in a completely different world. So thank you so much for being with us. I don't want to keep you guys much longer, but I do highly encourage you to sign up. And I do have to say that, some people want to do one session, and one session is, we've experimented with that. And our conclusion is that, most of us have not had just one traumatic experience. We've had many, 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 but a package of 5 or 10 will really create some grounding, some footing. And more than that, it's going to create this understanding that you are not the victim of your thoughts or your circumstances or the world around you, that you actually have a lot more power in the matter than you think you do. You don't have to live you don't have to live with the adjectives you've come up with yourself, I'm so, empathic, I pick up too many emotions around me, or I'm so confused all the time, or I'm always late, or whatever, however you describe yourself. I have trouble losing weight. I don't know how to save money. I don't know how to sell anything. I don't, all the things that are stopping you from achieving the success. Trust me, it's just an old memory, and then your brain has turned it into a new kind of story in your head, but it's really those old emotions replaying in your mind. So thank you again. Thanks, Cindy, for being with us today. And thanks those of you that shared, and also for the rest of you for joining us. So I really appreciate it.